Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Monday, November 8th. And back from traveling a little bit over the last couple days, and back to doing the end of day videos, which will continue on. I always get the questions when I'm away. Hey, what's going on with the end of day videos? But yes, back to the regular schedule for now. Theme of the day. Let's get right into the market action for the theme of the day. Momentum in a few different areas of the market. Clean energy, once again, which has been acting very well over the last few weeks. The cryptos and then a couple other areas. The pot stocks were absolutely on fire. That was actually your best performing group that I've got on my on the left here of the spreadsheet. They were up 7.5% for the day, and over the session they actually made a lot of gains over the session too, which is obviously a little bit easier for than if you're coming already in long. Well, I should say that's very nice, but I know that there's a lot of just day traders out there too. So there's a lot of chances to play some of these high momentum areas. So that's the pot stocks up 7.5%. I have MJ on my watch list, but I know that there's a lot of other ones out there. I know the one that gets all the talk is the MSOS. Excuse me. Notice how that did take out a virgin point of control and faded, right? So if you're not familiar with what the study, the indicator, the system that we're using to use volume at price, it is the market webs, right? And it really gives us some great levels where a lot of buyers and sellers have previously met but have not returned to. So for example, look at the supply up here where a lot of buyers and sellers previously met up, and MSOS, big volume today, but took out this to a penny and then faded. So, we'll get back to this concept in just a minute, but, if you caught some of these moves today, I would give yourself a pat on the back because it's not easy to play names that are in downtrends. I was listening to Benzinga in the morning today, and they were talking about how names that are in downtrends sell the rip, and names that are in uptrends buy the dip, right? That's basically how it works. So selling the rip have to do if you've managed to position, or if you're underwater in a name. Here's a perfect example. Like, I know some people look at this and they think that there's opportunity here. I think it's opportunity to sell, right? And I would be selling with both hands, personally, unless this thing really gets above the downtrend. And the downtrend is up at 38, right? And again, that's just me being a trend trader, and that's my system. I've learned over time that it's very difficult to get the timing right on these things. More often than not, they lead to losers, but they get a lot of attention when they have these big bounce days, and then they go crickets for months. So you could see, so here's a good test. So what would be the test for this pot stock? So I'm starting off with something a little bit different today in this video, but what would be your area that you would be looking for this MSOS cannabis ETF to turn the corner? Well, it's pretty simple, isn't it? I would say the 50-day moving average, right? So we've got value areas in here. So, you could also look at the top of value 3042, which lines up very well with the 50-day moving average. So again, if you caught this stuff, if you caught a 6% move in this stuff, or this thing was up earlier, a 9% move, I would be taking profits on any bounce in this stuff until it really starts to look better. Okay, so 50-day moving average has been the barrier the whole time. So again, if you caught it, congratulations to you. And same thing with the other pot stocks too, right? These are in heavy downtrends, right? And you should know that if you're dealing with these stocks, right? How difficult these names have been, right? Tillery took out that VPOC. You could set, if you really like Tillery, right? And you could see what this name has done over time, right? It has been a disaster. So again, I think it's funny when people talk about this stuff and they start doing high fives and everything, but this is not a stock to be doing high fives in. If you manage to catch this thing for 15%, take it, right? 12. So the virgin point of control, $12, great place to sell. It went a little bit higher here. Maybe it can go up to 13.50. I'm not saying it can't, but very, very difficult area. This one, GRWG, I think this thing could maybe take out this VPOC here, but that would be a good selling opportunity going into earnings. And then see if it does something differently on earnings, right? The last time it reported earnings, right? Because a lot of times that's what really changes the trend around, is when you really is when these companies really come out with something that's really going to attract the institutions, and that's a strong earnings quarter, right? So you could see what happened the last time that this thing reported earnings. This went down to $40, and that was all she wrote. So it's moving up on, as these pot stocks always move up on the possibility of further legalizing. But every time we've seen one of these headlines about legalizing marijuana, that is the point to sell. All right, so that's what I know with this group. Again, that's all I really know about this group, is just following trend and price. So if you're in this thing, congratulations, right? You managed to get a little bit of a bounce in it. All right, so let's move on to the more widely focused, some more widely focused names. We'll talk about the indices really quickly. There's not much to really say, and I give the index review in the morning in the TTG pre-market session. We do that every morning around 9:10 in the morning, and I post these charts every morning too. And I haven't really had much to say because you don't want to really super analyze this. Why do I have the 5-period moving average on my chart? Because it tells you when something is trending. Right, so we are. This is continuing to trend. It finished S&P, even though the moves have been getting a little bit slower. Still finished up on the day, even though the VIX was up on the day. Maybe we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, that's what we're doing here, and really I would pay attention to very simple to when the 5-period moving average ducks back, but the price ducks below the 5-period moving average. Right, keep it simple. Forget all these extensions and measured moves, and I think it's going to go here and making predictions, that kind of stuff. Because could we continue to go higher for months? Stopping here and there and then going higher, of course. But to come out and say generalized statements about where you think this market is going to go is foolish to me. Just follow the price. Right? And as long as we're following the 5-period moving average, the super short-term trend is intact. Now, what's going to happen once this ducks below? Then you could maybe take some more profits in some things. It's just how it works. But I know everybody seems to want to predict when that exact point is going to be. One of the things that I think, and why so many people say is, try to predict this stuff, is because they're so averse to a little bit of loss, right? But if you're making money on this whole bit, right, as a trend trader, you know that you're going to give back a little bit on the very top, right? And that's how it works that's how it should work as long as you're disciplined, all right? I just showed the 1-hour chart too. That's something to watch for the week, right? Whoops, that's the weekly chart, right? I would watch 46.64, right? That would also, notice how we've been above value for basically every week in this month, so as long as we stay above here. Right. I've made some points too the last couple of weeks about, hey, we haven't come back and touched the top of value this month. We've done that 19 consecutive months. That could still happen. We're still in the very beginning portion of the month. I want to talk about really quick before we go over the rest of the indices, something that I've mentioned before about the VIX going higher when the VIX going higher when the market goes higher. So it's a little bit of a divergence. This is what, and I explained this more in detail in the member video this weekend. But you could look at a couple different times, right? You could always go back and look at historically when the when the S&P has gone up, when the VIX has gone up too. So so what I went over is the beginning of 2018, right? Notice that we were much more overbought. So we got to about an 87 RSI. That's very hot. I think we're around a 75 right now. But pair that up with what the VIX did, right? So if we go back to where the VIX was over that time. So if we go 5-year chart and we bring up the beginning, and I zoom in here on the beginning of 2018, right? You can see what happened in the beginning of 2018. So when did this start to? Right now, I remember that we started to see this creep up a little bit, but look at the level that we were at back then. The VIX was like a 9, right? So the VIX was in single digits. Now it started to go a little bit higher, right? So I don't think this is a major cause for concern until we really started to do this, right? And that didn't happen until right in here. And that kind of confirmed things. So it's something to keep an eye on. If we don't want to see. What I said in the weekend video is I don't really want to see the VIX go above 20 while the S&P is just sitting here. That to me, you could interpret it differently, but that to me would be a warning signal. Right now we're around 17, so it is a little bit odd, right? So if we fast forward, so again, take a look at this pattern and how extended we got before we ducked below. And again, notice what happened here. Once we ducked below the 5-day moving average, that was your time to say, oh, something's changing in the market, right? And then if you did that and you reduce risk on the first time, then you didn't have to worry about this big swoosh, right? Or maybe you got caught a little bit more. But if you did some reducing of risk after a super extended period, you did the right thing, right? So we're not there yet. So you could predict all you want, right? And the RSI is a 76 right now. Okay, so I would pay attention to this to see if this continues to go higher. I think that would be a warning signal for me if the VIX gets to close. If it continues to rise, 18, 19, 20, I'm going to be a little bit more skittish. Now, the one thing that could also happen too is we try to go over a few different outcomes here. And the S&P could digest and the small caps could continue to go, or another area of the market could continue to go. That's also another possible outcome, right? When you talk to people on Twitter, on FinTwit, it's usually one or two outcomes. Either people are super bullish or people think that the world is going to end, right? And there's a market crash. It could be a little bit in between too, right? It could be that we just kind of see rotations continue to go around, and if you look at today's performance, obviously this is just one day where we're seeing these areas outperform. Now we have seen the blockchain stocks trend. I'm going to talk about that group next, and the clean energy names act very well. But we have been seeing, from time to time, we do see a lot of rotation in the market too, right? So blockchain stocks, I've been holding this blockchain ETF. I think it's a nice, easy way to kind of get exposure to the group. And if you look at what's in this group, and I've showed this before, but there was a call buyer in this thing today, right? Like a momentum call buyer. Right? But if you look at the names that performed well, you got the Mara, you got the Riot, you got AMD's actually in this thing too. Hut is in it. Right? So you're getting all the big performers. I know some people would rather play the single names. Depends on it depends on your risk tolerance, and this I have in the TTG trend portfolio. So this has been acting very well. Speaking of the TTG trend portfolio, we got long AMD, right, which was our best performer in the I think in the profile, October 13th, right? So I this was not something I've been sitting with for a long time, but look at the performance in this. Unbelievable. All right, so a nice winner, another nice winner for us in the TTG trend portfolio. All right, and I was going to mention the third group too. We could actually talk about four groups, which I will. But the clean energy stocks have been acting very well, right? And so this has gotten above its 200-day moving average. And the other thing that we looked at that kind of helped us get into this group was the weekly chart, right? And again, if you're a regular viewer of my videos, I've talked about that support down there at 75. So we're now, decently above here. Might be a little bit of time, I think, to take some profits. Definitely around 99 would be an area to maybe reduce some risk. But I do like the pattern that's going on here. Now that we're above the 200-day moving average, now you got a clear defined stop too. What was resistance now could be your support. Okay. Let's talk about the semis group as well. Right. That has been also right. So this is another, like, I love the semis when they're doing. I mean, this is a really crazy move, but I do like when they're moving in the direction of the market. That's confirming to me. And this thing kind of has been methodically going up, down, and really got going on this after this test of the 200-day moving average. And we've certainly seen, like AMD was the name of the day today, but we've certainly seen AMBA, which is also in the TTG trend portfolio. I mean, this thing has been an absolute monster since this thing reported earnings, and just continues to act well, and I'm sticking with it. Until I see a change in a break of that 5-day moving average. Try to stay in the name as long as you possibly can while it's trending. All right, and then the other name that we got long last week was Applied Materials. This thing took forever to, in my opinion. You had to be really patient. I got shaken out. I tried this a couple times. I think the last time I tried going long AMT was in June. I just remember that because I was down at the beach on vacation, and it kind of failed here and moved down, and then I said, hey, well, you're not fooling me again with this stock. So I think I purchased it on this in the beginning of this day. And you could see I took some more profits in this Applied Materials today at 154. So that was my second target in Applied Materials. So really nice. Taiwan Semi got involved today too, right? AMD announced that they're collaborating, I think, with Taiwan Semi. We'll see how this goes. This has been another tough one, right? So it's getting to the upper end of the range. This one it seems very difficult to me. We took out another VPOC in this thing. You got another one up here at 122. So again, these version point of controls are overhead supply, right? And a lot of times you'll see some fades once this level gets taken out. Why? Because it's going to be met with sellers, right? Some longs that are trapped in the name. All right. One more group to talk about too. I think this is the fourth or fifth that we're talking about in this video, but this has been another group that's been absolutely on fire, right? And I should be getting into profit mode with this group because it's getting a bit extended. We put LAC, lithium, in the TTG trend portfolio. We did that also on October 13th. So we really kind of ramped up some of the groups. What I did, which kind of expanded the number of names that we were holding in the TTG trend portfolio, is I broke apart a couple of ETFs. For example, we were long LIT, the lithium ETF. And we just thought it would be better to play some single names in the space. We also put on ALB, which has been acting very well. So some really great performance there. And then maybe the last group to talk about is some of the cyber names. We keep this cyber group just is not going away. For example, from the headlines, right? I think Biden said something like today that they're going to stay committed to addressing, cybercrime. So every time that happens too, this group obviously benefits from that. And Palo Alto looks like it's trying to break out here before earnings, and they report on the 18th, right? So that's next week. But I took this one home today. And again, I like simple trades. So how is this a simple trade? All right, we're breaking value. Right, so again, this is the range where volume has been hanging out at. Right, this is in price discovery. I want to be in price discovery. That's when you begin to trend. Now, it's not 100% guaranteed. You do need buyers to kind of like that breakout and support the breakout. But we know where we're statistically significant, and that's outside of this value area. Right, so now we've got this on, and I'm long versus 513. Right, and we'll see what happens. No predictions, right? Other than I'll be watching, some places to maybe take some targets. Right. The name that's been an absolute animal in this space is Zscaler. Unbelievable, right? So you have to ask yourself, right? Take a look at that trend line break, right? 268. Right, and look at what this thing has done from here, from 268 to 351. Is this more exciting to you, or is this? Oh, I got this and it's done. Right? Isn't that hard versus basically much harder than picking a stock like this that breaks a trend line and you just continue with it? In my opinion, this is how you really create profits in trading. Not trying to time every single little turn, because then you've got to be so precise in taking it off too. Just a much better trade in my opinion. All right. What else do I see acted very well? CF Industries, my initials, acted very well today. Has made a nice move here after earnings. A little bit of a fake out here, and then continued higher. There was another name too that had a pretty interesting fake out too in the medical device group, which is Agilent Technologies. It's one of those names that I don't trade that often, but I remember that this trend was just beautiful. That where this thing went up last year, earlier in the year, and this thing made starting to kind of act better. But look at the fake out this thing gave on Friday, right? Looked like it was breaking some of the moving averages here, but found support right here. And sometimes you need a shakeout before you get going. INMB is one that I keep coming back to. Why do I keep coming back to this name? Because it acts so damn well, right? Every time this thing comes in, speaking about a dip, we really haven't had much of a dip, but this is the breakout and this is the retest. So far, the retest held pretty well. I added some calls into this morning. Added to my position because I hold this both in stock as well. Whoops. Right, so adding, my original cost basis is a little bit higher, so that brought my cost basis down to about 850. Right, took a target here, took another target, and here. Right, and now I can kind of widen this out a little bit now that I've put some money in my pocket, and we'll see if we get the turn and we go higher in this one. Speaking of another one that's worked really well, one that I'll be watching for tomorrow is Asan. So it's got a little bit more resistance to get through. It made its way through the first level. So if you were looking to trade this thing now, and again, another easy setup, you go long versus 134, and see if this thing can get through. See if this thing can get through resistance, right? And you can take a target here, 139, $4 up, right? And then look for the breakout, the further breakout. But what's nice about this is my system tells me exactly where to get out of this, unemotionally. No predictions. If it goes back below 134, you take the trade off for a tiny loss, right? And that's what it's all about, right? You're going to have losses in this game. It's how you handle those losses, right? Small losses are fine. Big losses, not so much. All right, guys. I think that's it. I went a little bit longer than I usually do because I haven't done video in a while. But there were some underperformers today too. Biotech, just I think it's worth keeping an eye on it, given the seasonality. It's a very strong sector in November. But I'll tell you, right? We had this trade on last week, and I took it off at the 200-day moving average because I didn't want to be greedy. Right after a real nice move, we caught the turn perfectly. And again, this is a harder trade to me, right? Being that it's a lower price does not make it easier, right? It's all relative, right? I would rather see a break out of a base, right, or a pullback into support than trying to pick the turn in this. Now we saw heavy option activity, which helped, but you got to manage the trade better than the institutions do. Why do I say that? Right? You got to manage the trade better than the institutions do, because most of these institutions cannot beat the S&P 500. So you have to ask yourself if you want to beat the S&P 500. If you want to beat the S&P 500, follow what all the institutions do in option flow, right? But if you want to do better than that, you need to have your own system. Now you can incorporate many things in your system, but discipline, I think, has to be one of them. Okay, so we'll watch. We'll see. I would like to see volume start to trail off here, and maybe kind of just sit in here, and then we can watch to see if this thing can reclaim the 200-day moving average. But for now, I'm on the sidelines with this one. All right, guys, have a great night. Hope that was enough charts for you guys, and I'll see you guys back bright and early tomorrow morning. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.